Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're heading straight to the heart of Europe, a language that's, well, rooted in history, but also surprisingly relevant today. Slovak.
It's interesting, when we think about languages shaping national identity, like those grand pronouncements or even just literary tradition.
Right.
But for Slovak, it's actually literally enshrined in their constitution as the official language. It's a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah, like saying, hey, this language, this is us, it's in our DNA. But before we get into what makes Slovak unique, I'm kind of curious, where does it fit in, like, the grand scheme of linguistically speaking?
Good question. Think of it like a family tree, right? You got your branches, East Slavic, South Slavic, and where Slovak is West Slavic.
Okay, some Slavic siblings in the mix, but are we talking close-knit or more like distant cousins?
Oh, definitely close-knit. In fact, Slovak has a sibling that's basically its twin.
Oh.
Check. They're so close that linguists actually use the term dialect continuum. Dialect continuum. All right, you got to break that down for me.
Basically, the lines between the two languages can get really blurry, especially in border regions. Think of it like, imagine someone from Texas trying to understand someone with a thick Scottish accent.
Okay.
There's overlap, but there are also distinct features that make things interesting.
I get it. They can kind of understand the gist, but maybe need a translator for those like really nuanced conversations, you know, like debates about quantum physics or
Exactly.
the finer points of Slovak grammar.
Exactly. And even though they come from the same ancestor, the West Slavic family, history's played a role too, you know?
Right.
Over time, you've got geographical separation, political shifts, cultural influences, all leaving their mark.
So like siblings, they might share DNA, but they've had their own journeys. Speaking of journeys, let's unpack what makes Slovak. Well, Slovak. What makes it stand out? One fascinating thing is this rule we call the rhythmic law.
Rhythmic law.
Yeah, essentially you can't have two long vowels right next to each other. Yeah, it's like a dance where short and long vowels take turns, creating this unique rhythm.
Huh. So that's why people always say Slovak sounds so melodic. But doesn't that make pronunciation tricky?
It can be, but Slovak has a secret weapon. Diacritics.
You mean those little symbols above some of the letters? I'll admit, sometimes I see those and I'm like, is that decorative or am I missing something?
Definitely not decorative.
Yeah.
They indicate subtle but really important changes in vowel sounds and consonant pronunciation, like how we use accents in, say, Spanish or French.
Right.
They're like signposts, basically, guiding you to pronounce words correctly, unlocking those really nuanced shades of meaning.
So it's not just about how it looks, it's about packing in a ton of meaning. Slovak is full of surprises. What else is there?
Well, this might surprise you. Unlike English, Slovak doesn't use articles like the or a before nouns.
Wait, really? No, the or a. Wow, I never realized how much we rely on those tiny words. How does that even work?
It seems strange, I know, but it shows how elegant Slovak grammar is. You see, articles tell us if a noun is general or specific, but Slovak does this in other ways. Word endings, context. It all fits together.
That's wild. It makes you realize how much we take for granted in our own languages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we're so used to seeing things through our own lens, we forget there are other ways of, like, structuring thought, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking of structure, let's talk about word order. English, we're pretty strict. Subject, verb, objects.
Yeah.
But Slovak, it's a bit more, shall we say, jazzy?
Linguistic jazz, I like it. So Slovak sentences, they've got more room to, like, groove, right?
Exactly. Slovak uses these things called inflections. Think of them like word endings that change depending what the word's doing in the sentence.
Okay.
So unlike English, where we need a strict word order to understand, Slovak can play around a bit.
So give me an example. Like, how would you say the cat chases the mouse in Slovak? And how could we, jazz it up a bit?
Good question. Okay, so the cat chases the mouse would be Mačka naháže mor. But let's say we want to make it clear it's the cat doing the chasing, right?
Right.
We can switch it up. Mačka me jahaže. Literally, cat-mouse chases. Sounds weird in English.
Yeah.
But in Slovak, boom, instant drama.
That's amazing. It's like the language itself lets you be more expressive. So we've got rhythm, flexible word order. What other secrets are hiding in how Slovak works?
When we talk about how Slovak has like borrowed words from other languages.
Right, like linguistic souvenirs.
Exactly, those passport stamps. So where's Slovak been collecting these souvenirs?
Yeah, tell me more.
Well, Czech, obviously. But Slovak has also borrowed a lot from Latin, German, Hungarian, even a little bit of Greek. It's a real mix.
Like a good goulash, right?
Yeah.
Seasoned with Latin, a sprinkle of German.
Yeah.
But if Slovak is borrowing from all these places, how does it keep its own identity? It's like you can use the same ingredients, but the final dish will taste different depending on who's cooking.
That's a great way to put it. And it's true. It's not just about the words themselves,
Right.
but how they're used within Slovak's own system.
Mm,
The grammar, the sounds, even the cultural context.
right, right.
Think of it this way. The word computer exists in tons of languages, right?
So-
But the way it's used, what it means to people, that's different everywhere, depending on their relationship with technology.
Makes sense. It's like language isn't just a dictionary. It's a reflection of like a culture's whole way of seeing things.
Absolutely. And that's what makes studying languages like Slovak so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just vocabulary, it's like peeling back layers of history,
Yeah.
culture, connection.
Like a linguistic archaeological dig.
Exactly.
Speaking of discoveries, I heard Slovak borrowed a few words that might sound, well, surprisingly familiar.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Remember those passport stamps? Well, Slovak's passport includes some unexpected places, like ketchup.
Hey, ketchup, like the stuff we put on everything.
The one and only. It actually came straight from English, right into Slovak. And there's more. Words like jeans, leggings, even super and okay.
It's wild how words can travel like that. But it also makes me wonder, how much does Slovak actually sound like its Slavic siblings? Like, could I, with my very, very limited Slavic language skills, could I tell them apart?
The million-dollar question, right? And as always with language, it's complicated. A lot of Slavic languages share some intelligibility, at least with basic words. But the trick is in the details. Pronunciation, grammar, and of course, those false friends.
Ooh, don't get me started on false friends. Like that time I tried to order a cola in Spain and I accidentally asked for a tail. Not quite the same.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Czech and Slovak, what kind of false friends could trip someone up?
Okay, so in Slovak, the word volný means free. But in Czech, volný sounds really similar, means loose.
Oh, no.
Imagine the misunderstandings.
Yeah, I have a free afternoon takes on a whole new meaning.
Exactly.
So even though there's overlap, especially with Czech, Slovak still has its own thing going on.
Absolutely.
But let's go back to those family ties for a sec. How much can Czech and Slovak speakers actually understand each other? Is it like watching a movie with subtitles, or more like talking to a friend with a different accent?
It's somewhere in between, honestly. Like, think of it this way. Czech speaker, Slovak speaker. They could probably watch the same news broadcast and get the main idea, you know?
Okay, so no subtitles needed for the evening news. That's good.
Right. But if they were having like a really deep conversation about, oh, I don't know, literature or politics, they might need to like double check a few things or watch
Yeah.
out for those false friends.
Makes sense. They can get by day to day, but those richer conversations, you need to put in a little effort. It really shows how even these small language differences can tell you a lot about a culture, huh?
Exactly. It reminds us that language isn't just about like conveying information. It's about connecting with a whole other way of seeing the world. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
I love that. Even though we're getting into the nitty-gritty of grammar, at the end of the day, language is about connection. And speaking of connections, as we wrap up our Slovak deep dive, I'm curious, if languages are always changing, adapting to new things, what does that mean for Slovak? Will it stay distinct, or will those lines keep blurring?
It's a great question, and one linguists are always thinking about. But the thing is, languages are incredibly resilient. They adapt, they borrow, but they also hold on to what makes them special.
So even though Slovak's connected to this whole family of languages, it's still carving out its own path.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so cool. We've uncovered hidden connections, those fun quirks, and we can appreciate Slovak, not just as words on a page, but as a real living expression of a culture.
Well said. That was a fascinating glimpse into the world of Slovak, a language that's both rooted in history but also incredibly relevant today. It reminds us that even in our super connected world, those unique voices, those languages, they make the tapestry of human expression so much richer.